I was faced with a lot of food addiction, things that I didn't realize I was addicted to.
What do we mean by alpha male? There's a new paradigm way to be an alpha male, which is more around protection, being a custodian.
We swing all the way to the other side where there's like, I'm not working, I'm not part of the matrix, I'm not playing this game, I'm just going to live under a coconut tree and meditate. And it's so great. Now we've experienced both. So it's bringing them together to the balance.
How do you feel about some very spiritual tribes like Native Americans that end up eating fair amounts of meat? Hi, and welcome to this new episode of The Light Leaders. Today, we're going to talk about, can you really be a raw vegan alpha male? It's going to be a juicy, interesting topic. And we'll have a conversation with Jonathan David, who's here joining me. So Jonathan is an inspirational speaker and certified detox practitioner. You're focused on helping people unlock their personal power through detox and health. And you've helped hundreds of people reverse diseases and gain more vitality. You've, like me, been a raw vegan for 3 years also, and you look great. We put your picture on the thumbnail of this video. So it's going to be a great conversation, and I'm excited to have you. Before we dive deeper, I just want to ask you, what are you grateful for today?
Man, I'm grateful to be here. Good to be here. I appreciate you having me on. I'm really grateful for the ability for all of us to connect around the world and share what's coming through, because I think a lot of us are tapping into very similar inspirations and ideas and codes of remembrance. So for this right here and the people that are going to see this, I'm super grateful for this.
Amazing. Thank you, Jonathan. And it's interesting. We'll have a great conversation on that topic, because you, like me, are really interested in how you can eat raw vegan diet, let's call it this way. You've been on it for 3 years. You've been also wanting to be consistent at the gym and build a business, when a lot of the, let's say, cliches around being a raw vegan are very like, I know, like being a hippie and getting a bit getting skinny and maybe away from the world or from the material, right? So I guess you resonate with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing.
Big time.
Has it been for you those 3 years on raw vegan diet?
Man, good question. I mean, it's been the biggest catalyst for personal growth for me. It's also been one of the most wild roller coasters, because for me, going into eating raw, whole foods, plant-based, what people call raw vegan, I was faced with a lot of food addiction, things that I didn't realize I was addicted to. Like, for instance, I realized 3 months into being raw, plant-based, that I was addicted to pizza. I was like, fuck, man, I really miss pizza. And I was like, why is this actually really hard for me right now? And I started realizing that when I was a kid, we grew up like super sheltered, super strict. My dad wouldn't allow us to watch TV very often. So usually we watched one movie a week as a family. And for dinner, that movie night would always be pizza. And that was a happy time in the family. My dad wasn't upset. Everything was super chill. And so, good times, getting to watch TV, and then having pizza was all connected. And so going raw plant-based, just showed me like where all these addictions were. And it actually brought me face to face with, okay, are you going to grow past this stuff? Are you going to learn how to shed these addictions and these emotional blockers? Or are you going to stay stuck and go back to sedating with food? Because I didn't realize I was addicted and had these blockages because I'd been shoveling food down my face for my entire life. So it was a huge catalyst for personal growth, because it showed me more of my shadow, more of the stuff that was blocking me. It's been an awesome journey, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so interesting because, some things are obviously addictions, like, I don't know, smoking cigarettes, for example. But food is an interesting mix because, yes, there are a lot of addictive patterns around food. And unless you're into breatharianism, you would say you still need it to survive. So it's also a need. So it's like that fine balance where it's not as obvious when it's an addiction and when it's just you nourishing yourself.
Mm-hmm. Good point, man. And I personally don't even look at addiction as a bad thing. It just depends on what does it lead to. Like I can be addicted to waking up every morning at 5 a.m. and crushing my morning. That's a positive addiction. Negative addiction would be pizza. So yeah, we can be addicted to fruit, and that's in my book a good thing.
Yeah, man. And what I'm interested to also for this conversation is, how do you like? Do you feel you can be as driven and also as strong as a raw vegan than people who eat meat, especially?
10 times more.
Why do
Yeah.
you feel there's so for example, there's not a lot of raw vegan MMA fighters, right? Even raw vegan bodybuilders, all this. Do you feel that's possible?
Yeah, 100%. And the way I see it is like there's not a lot of people that are in the raw vegan lifestyle that care to be bodybuilders. They're more focused on vitality and longevity and really enjoying life and creating than bodybuilding. Bodybuilding, I'm just going to say this is probably a very unpopular view and I don't really care, but the way I see it is bodybuilding is it's kind of a compensation for a hole, an emptiness that's deep within. Because when I see myself or anybody in life really go super far into one thing and not be well rounded, there's some sort of a distortion there in their energetic field. And so when you're eating just raw plants, a lot of these distortions become very clear. Like I was talking about earlier, we're faced with our shadow, and most of us are working through those. So you see a lot of vegan bodybuilders, but as you and I both know, there's a big difference between raw vegan and vegan on an energetic scale.
Yeah.
It's definitely possible though, because some of the best performance athletes have talked about raw vegan. And a lot of the scientific studies out here show the actual difference of the blood and what's actually going on in the cellular health when we're eating raw versus dead. And we measure that with angstroms of energy in the food.
Actually, that was probably a bad example, by the way, bodybuilding, because the thing with bodybuilding is like, yes, there's definitely an element of performance, but there's also a lot of an element of distortion. And something like a raw vegan lifestyle is usually something where you want to align that performance with something more natural. So, for example, for extreme bodybuilding, you probably want to take steroids and do all these unnatural things. But in the world of performance, yeah, there are some. I mean, Novak Djokovic, I don't know if he'd be like a raw vegan, but he eats a lot raw and he's vegan and he eats gluten free and a lot of whole foods. So that's an example that comes to mind. And there's been like, I saw Spira, he did an interview with uh, MMA fighter. I can't remember his name, but I think Evans, something Evans,
Mm.
who transitioned, but he wasn't on it in his prime years. And even like Nate Diaz, I think he was doing a lot of raw vegan before the fight, or looking, in more those performance parts. I think that makes
Mm-hmm.
actually more sense. But I love what you shared also about the potential distortion of being obsessed, for example, with being as big as possible in a point that can be unhealthy. And I know you're quite close with Thor, and I follow his content on social media. And saw recently a post around him being a warrior, but being a warrior in a modern day and age is looking inside, is looking also at our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's an old paradigm way of being an alpha male and a new paradigm way of being an alpha male. And the old paradigm is that like I don't show emotion and I get super buffed and like super hardcore, and probably also where I'm an apex predator and I'm gonna kill because that's my nature, right? I think Joe Rogan, he talked about it on one of these shows, like, well, we apex, that's our nature. We just um and then there's a new paradigm way to be an alpha male, which is more around protection, being a custodian, and also on the emotional level, looking inside. So just to frame the conversation on, it's like, what do we mean by alpha male? Do we mean like no emotion, macho predator, or do we mean a compassionate, strong, but also gentle and caring custodian?
Mm. Yeah, man. It's a beautiful excuse me, topic to bring up, because the way I look at it is really the most alpha of males is going to be the most masculine, most healthy masculine. And yeah, like you said, the paradigms are shifting. The old paradigm is, masculinity was leadership and structure and all of this stuff through control. And I feel like the new paradigm, or remembering the ancient paradigms, the healthy things, are masculinity and leadership through invitation. There's no control, it's just inviting. And it starts with ourselves. Like the more we invite ourselves into more depths and more experiences, we start inviting everything on the outside of us into more depth and more experiences. And I mean, dude, honestly, this ties in with eating raw plants, because think about it this way. How alpha is it to just invite your food into your life instead of go out there and control it and force it into your life? Because anybody that's eating animal products, if you're actually sourcing your own and you're not just going and buying it at the meat market, animals don't just come lay on your doorstep and ask to be butchered. You have to control their death. But fruits, they're like neatly wrapped gifts hanging out of the tree, off the bushes. And it's like we're inviting them into our life and they're graciously offering themselves. That's one of the most masculine things I can think about.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, even you could even say, even through raw vegan, I'm also high fruit in my type of raw vegan, and
Uh-huh.
there is something even more moral, because everything has consciousness, right? And even ripping a carrot, it's a root of the floor. There is an act of killing, and obviously it's different, doesn't have the same emotional status and nervous system, while the fruit is really like ripening and ready for you to eat.
Yeah, I love that, man. My goal is to be all fruit. I still eat vegetables, I still eat salads and stuff, but that's part of my philosophy as well, is like there's no end of life or killing when you're just taking the fruit.
Mm.
And it's an interesting topic on the whole no killing thing, because I even hear like the voice of my old self pop up, and like, oh, what's wrong with killing? That's part of the cycle of life. And why are these guys talking about not killing plants? Like that's the weakest thing ever. And it's just a very low, and I don't say this to be negative, but it is a low frequency mindset to think like that. And as you ascend frequencies, this isn't a I'm better than you or anything like that type thing, but this is a real scientific type topic where we do ascend in frequencies, our energetic body, our physical body. And as we climb in higher frequencies, we start to see things different. We don't want to bring death to anything. Yes, death is a cycle. It's part of the cycle of life. But who needs to inflict that pain is a question that everybody has to end up sitting with. And these questions become very clear, at least they have for me, the more I've cleaned out my body, gotten the death out of my body.
Mm. Yeah, bro, how do you feel about some very spiritual tribes, for example, like Native Americans or maybe shamans in South America that end up eating fair amounts of meat and feel it is, yeah, part of the cycle of life, and from that higher consciousness that death isn't bad. How do you feel about that?
Mm-hmm. First off, I don't feel like there's no need for all of us to believe the same thing or live the same experience.
Mm.
I just talk from my experience, which is why like I've transitioned, because I used to be very dogmatic and like I can't believe you're going to eat animals and all this stuff. Like everything I believed, I thought the world needed to agree with. But now I look at it as like I have no desire for anybody to believe what I believe. I have the desire for people to find out what truly lights them up and then believe that. And hopefully they're inspired to find out whatever that is by seeing how fired up I am about what I believe. And so with your example, as far as like maybe tribes in the Amazon or more indigenous cultures that are highly spiritual and that are doing some amazing things, but still eating a lot of animals, I look at everything we consume in our bodies, whether it be smoking tobacco, eating food, drinking different liquids, it's all tools to change our frequency. And basically what I mean by that is if we're having a lot of high frequency energy going through this body, maybe you just came out of a plant medicine journey, or maybe you're doing a lot of meditating and a lot of just kind of separating from the physical world, and you feel like you're kind of floating off into the ethers, then eating something dense or cooked is going to bring you back down. And so I think that's why you see a lot of cultures that are doing a lot of work up in the etheric realm and more of the higher frequencies, needing to balance that with denser cooked food. Now, is that the only option or methodology to balance out our frequency? No, not at all. We can do that without putting stuff in our body. We can do some amazing breath work. We can do some actually grounding meditation. We can work out. We can do movement. We can go sit in the water, the lake, the ocean, whatever it is. Like there's all these different things we can do to ground ourselves. And again, it's just a personal choice. But I think that's why you see those tribes doing that stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's interesting, like going back to to that theme of the alpha male. A few things that come is being strong, provide, protect, being present. So looking at protect, it's like, of course, being the tough hunter, there's an element of protection there. Like the man can protect because he's tough and he's a hunter and killing. But also, like, do you want to protect just your tribe versus the rest of the world? Do you live in a paradigm of a threatening world, or do you live in a paradigm of harmony, where actually, you extend your protection to other species, to the animals, to the environment? And so, to me, it's like how the raw vegan diet and lifestyle, more than just the diet, also aligns with that alpha male new paradigm, is that it's a protection, not for protection, a small thing against the rest of the world, but it's extending that protection to more, the animals, the environment, and beyond.
I love that you brought that up, man. That is a high level, very masculine perspective, in my opinion.
And then balancing that with some of the more old paradigm, Liver King style masculinity, such as cultivating your strengths, working out, and this part that we also do, right? Like going to the gym. And so balancing this with also, I want to be strong. I want to be able to lift heavy things and defend in case of aggression and all these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a beautiful blend for me to claim a deeper level of just the warrior archetype through a higher frequency of eating plants and all the different modalities and lifestyle practices I do now that have become a big part of my life. My workouts are way better. I'm way more free and athletic in my body, moving through the emotional baggage and releasing trauma from the cells has healed my knees and my shoulders, because I was in the military. I had a lot of injuries when I got out. And if I would have kept living the old paradigm way, or the societal standard of eating a lot of rice and chicken and beef and all this stuff and getting pharmaceuticals for my joints and my muscles, and I would be far worse than I am right now. Like, I feel completely vital and healthy, and this is all switched in a matter of 4 years.
Amazing. Yeah. I love that. And we're in the middle of this episode and have a little game, which is I'm promoting my coaching through improvisation. Can you throw me a random word?
A random word. Life.
Life. Well, if you are a light worker or a leader of the new earth, you came here to have a life that you enjoy, but also where you fulfill your soul's mission. And if, like me and many other light leaders, you want to do it through a YouTube channel or a podcast, I'll have a link in the description, or you can DM me on Instagram, and I'd love to help you bring to life all these beautiful potential and beautiful ideas as a leader of the new earth that you have inside you. And I know, Jonathan, also you're really into speaking your truth, and that's why you're here with me. So thank you also for doing that as a service to humanity. And I know you're hanging out with Thor, who's a lot about that, and light workers speaking up on social media. So that was a little parenthesis, but I think that's also a very alpha male thing to do, to speak our truth and not be afraid of the judgment of other people, right?
Yeah, man, I love that, bro. That's a very masculine thing to do as well, is give ourselves little fun challenges just to dominate. You crushed that. And to add to that, like, I feel like that's the deepest fulfillment in life, is serving our purpose. So life and
Mm,
purpose, like, it all goes together. And yeah, the biggest thing that has helped me, that I just always want to speak on and remind other people, is just keep choosing yourself every single day, because if we do that, we can't lose.
mm. And I love that you bring purpose. I mean, that's also a trait of the healthy masculine, right? When you read the literature of David Deda, for example, it talks a lot about how it's primarily a masculine trait, that even though the masculine also wants love and great relationship, ultimately it's a very masculine trait to do your purpose and to be focused on that. And an example he gives is like, if you're a manly man and in the old times, hopefully we don't have to do that anymore, but you need to go to war, you you don't choose like, oh no, I'm gonna stay with my wife. She's gonna not respect that. Even if she says, oh, I want you to stay, ultimately she wants you to be a man, go to war. That's a bit old paradigm that was in David Dida's book. In the new paradigm, that could be things like facing our emotions, that could be the new war, as Thor was talking about. But yeah, I love that you bring the purpose on that also.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, the
Protect,
purpose always.
purpose. There's another one also that's interesting. It's providing. That's often a trait that we have in the healthy
Mm.
masculine. And yeah, it's like, do you feel that a raw vegan diet might make people less driven somehow? I feel sometimes people, when they're raw vegan, they become more spiritual. They want to be in nature, and they might get away from wanting to create businesses, for example.
Hmm. Yeah, you kind of do see that trend, or at least I have. And, Alex, I feel like a big part of that is the pendulum swing. We're so far over on this side, chained to a 9 to 5. We've been raised in slavery, basically. We've been conditioned in all these ways. And then we start to find personal freedom through cleansing the body, the vehicle. And so we swing all the way to the other side, where there's like, I'm not working. I'm not part of the matrix. I'm not playing this game. I'm just going to live under a coconut
Mhm.
tree and meditate. And it's so great. Now we've experienced both. So it's bringing them together to the balance. And so I think that's part of the journey. It was part of my journey. I never really went too crazy into the other side, but I did definitely, go without working for a while before I started my own business. And I just needed to, like, free myself from all of the stuff over on this side, get a taste of this, create stability down here. And that's where I'm at right now, where my two biggest focuses in life are my life, which is my business, my brand. I am my brand, my purpose, my impact here, and then my body. Those two things, like, I'm laser focused on that. Nothing else matters to me.
Mm. Yeah, it's beautiful, and you found purpose through, yeah, your lifestyle in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, like, we are our purpose. And when we stop trying to be like, oh, I'm going to be a real estate investor. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do drop shipping. I'm going to work for this company. I'm going to be an agriculture specialist, whatever it is. Those are just things that we will experience, but it's not us. And it's so easy for us. I used to do it most of my life, like all through my 20s. I was identifying with my careers. And when I put everything on hold and just dove into myself, I realized, oh yeah, I'm the gold. And everything that comes from me is an example of what's on the inside of me. So let's work on the inside of me, and then everything else transforms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's interesting because I saw a post of Thor who wanted to try potentially raw vegan. I remember when I had the interview with him, he was actually curious. And but what I told him is I'm not sure how it's gonna go in Norway because in Bali I have all these fresh organic fruits. But yeah, how do you feel about the impact of the climate also to have that lifestyle?
I mean, you can grow fruits and vegetables in almost any climate if you've got the right greenhouses, heaters, fans, all this kind of stuff. However, that's not possible for everybody. So, I say, why live where you're at? Go live where you want to live. Go live what fits with your body. Now, a big conversation I have with people is, oh, I'm Native American, or I'm indigenous to this land, and we've eaten buffalo, or we've eaten, whatever this meat is, it's part of who I am. And the conversation always ends with the only reason they do it is because it's cultural. They fully understand, because the science is out there, that we actually operate and live longer without animal flesh in our body. And so there's like all these layers of bypassing of why do you not choose a healthier lifestyle? And everybody wants to blame it on something other than just a choice. And at the end of the day, I say, hey, if you want to eat animals, like eat animals, claim it, own it, but don't make excuses about it's cultural. I need the protein. It's because of where I live and there's not enough fruits and vegetables. Personally, I think those are just bypassing excuses. Whatever you do, fucking own it. And you don't need to justify it to anybody.
Nice. And do you feel that? Well, I'll say a very natural diet, especially for me. I've also removed a lot of the salts and the spices and stimulants. I still go with cacao. But actually, I think it's better in general. We're overstimulated to reduce stimulation. But I'm wondering if that can go a little too far. And in the context of being embodied masculine, strong, who are motivated to build businesses or go to the gym, I do find that sometimes having some level of stimulation is actually helpful. So without getting into the pre-workouts and all these crazy things that people get, do you find that it might be a little bit more challenging to be motivated when you eat that diet, and for example motivated to go to the gym and to push harder at the gym than if you were taking things like stimulants?
So, two-part answer to that really is I have felt and still feel way more energy and motivation to do what serves me, to do what I want to do on a raw plant-based diet. And so I'm going to have more motivation to go to the gym. Now, as far as needing the stimulants or the energy to, get up at 5 a.m. and work on the computer for 3 hours and then go to the gym and all this stuff, yes, they're like stimulants help. But and I'm not against them. I'll drink cacao sometimes. I love my Shilajit and the minerals, all this external stuff. And then it's also good to just remember to not only rely on external stimulants, but like fire yourself up with some breath work, some chi tapping, some qi gong, like some pas de la Jin, where you slap your body over and over and you get that energy flowing, all these different things. It's a very magical world we live in, and it's easy to be savage as fuck by choosing all these different modalities. Is any of it right or wrong? Fuck no. It's like, enjoy your life, live it. And if you want to drink cacao, cool. If you want to snort cocaine, cool. Like, you don't have to answer to anybody. But yeah, to answer your question, man, I I prefer minimal stimulants, and really the biggest thing
Mm,
I'll have now is cacao or matcha. I still love matcha, but it's a
mm.
couple times a month tops.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, well done. I love the idea of more like using breath or tapping the body and using other ways to stimulate that are more healthy.
Yeah, and it's not to like be dogmatic about being natural or anything. It just taps me personally more into my personal power. And when I say personal power, I just mean like this bottomless well of God energy, source, the universe.
Mm, love that.
Yeah,
Talking
it's a fun life.
about talking about really owning your truth and being n- not being too regarding of the opinion of other people. You know where I'm going here.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I think I
saw
do.
I saw on Thor's reel again. Actually, he was showing a video of you. I think where you were rubbing urine right on your body, and that's something I've talked on the podcast too. I've experimented with. I've been curious on. So I've been curious on it. I've read a lot of videos and books on it, and I have many people that also around me because I live in Bali and it's not so weird there that like it or even swear by it. And it's very convincing. I experimented for 4 months. For me, I didn't have such a huge shift. It was kind of not bad and good, drinking my own urine, basically. And that's also the time when I was having a lot of the raw vegan or fruitarian people on my channel, and actually not a lot of them recommend it, and some are really against. Like, for example, I know Dr. Morse thinks it's stupid because like what you that's basically your waste, right? So it's which has a common sense, right? Your body rejects it, so why would you drink it again? So I think we might do another episode on this, but I'm just curious what's so attractive to you with it.
Yeah, good question, man. And I'll keep this short because, yeah, we should definitely do a full podcast on this because there's so much information and I could talk for hours on this. But basically, this came up because you were talking about how I was talking about just owning whatever it is you choose to do in your life
Mm,
and like just claim it because why not? Well, yeah, I definitely own and love the ancient art of Shivambu, which is urine therapy. Now, urine is three parts: it's plasma, it's blood, and it's water. It is not something the body rejects, but it's something the body gifts. Basically, look at it like everything that man has created is mimicking something in nature, literally everything. And our body was the inspiration for juicers. Basically, we got the fiber and the waste and all this stuff coming out one end, and then we've got all the gold coming out the other side. There is so many studies. It's funny that this is still a topic of debate in 2024 with all of our studies in technology and science. But yeah, there's so many studies that show that urine is 100% sterile and pure, no matter what the status of the body is, no matter what you're consuming. It always excretes pure and sterile. It's full of over 100 minerals, vitamins, nutrients, all these things. And one thing that's not talked about as much in the mainstream tests and studies with urine is its information. And that's the thing that I haven't studied, but this is just what I've learned through the experience with it and through different information coming through me is it's, look at it this way. We all know the studies of water. Water holds the records of the universe. Like, it holds everything. It's the biggest hard drive that's ever been, right?
yeah,
Well,
and you have
our
Dr.
water,
Emoto's work also with like the blessing and the
yes,
memory
thank
of
you.
water. Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Emoto, amazing stuff, right? I mean, it's mind blowing, and it's there's no question left after consuming that, observing that. Well, urine's the same thing, except it's our memory. It's everything that has to do with our journey, lifetimes, different galactic systems, whatever you believe in, wherever your history comes from. And so the biggest thing for me with urine therapy, because I've been practicing for over 3.5 years, is it's helped me get to know myself and love myself on a deeper level than any other experience, modality, person, anything in my life. And it's because it's me. It's my information. So basically it's produced by the body, for the body. It's a biofeedback loop. And so I drink it every day, all day, have for over 3 years. And yeah, it's one of the most amazing things that anybody can step into. But here's the thing is I don't recommend people do it if they don't want to. It's a part of your journey that when it's right for you, it'll be right for you. And this is how I look at other topics that other people talk about where I'm like, yeah, I don't really know about that. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't need to disprove them. I don't need to talk shit. I just know that if it doesn't feel right for me right now, I'm not going to do it. If it feels right, it doesn't matter how many people are talking shit about it. I'm going to do it because I'm living in my own world here. I don't care what anybody else thinks or says.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And that ties also to something people do on every side of nutrition, which is kind of that gossipy criticizing, which I don't vibe with. So it could be, raw vegan talking about, I don't know, carnivores or whatever, other people. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't feel good. Even in the raw vegan community, there's some of that with other raw vegans. Like there's a lady that's quite famous there called Freely the Banana Girl, and I checked a few of her YouTube video, and she was like trashing fully raw Christina on like, oh, you're not fully raw because of this, and you're eating salads, and that's too low calorie and all this. I was like, that's super low vibe. And so I love that you choose to do what you do. You can explain why, and at the same time let people live their lives in a way which vegans aren't always very good at, to be honest, and can be very judgmental. On the urine, thank
Yeah.
you for sharing. Yeah, maybe we do an episode on it. I have my skepticism. I wasn't very convinced about the science when I looked at it, but I have
Yeah.
really an open mind. And if anything, it definitely encourages you to eat a lot of fruits because it has a very different taste
Yeah,
based on what you
exactly.
eat. So for sure, that was helpful.
100%, man. People will be like, you say it tastes like coconut water? No way. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's because I eat a lot of fruits and coconut. So
Maybe last topic to close, as we talked about purpose, and that's also part of the alpha male is to be on their purpose and
yeah.
focus on that. Yeah, how like you're building a personal brand, you're building an online business. Like, do you want to share a little bit more about your passion for that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, um, man, my whole life, ever since I can remember, I've always felt like I had a big purpose. I felt different than everybody. I felt like the black sheep, all these different things. I was definitely different. And for those of you listening that this resonates with, yeah, you're one of the different ones too. And we're all new earth leaders, basically. And that's not to say we're better than anybody, but we know why we came here. And so my whole life has been trying to figure out what that was. Well, it became very clear when I started changing my life back in 2020 and got a personal like lifestyle coach and just started claiming my power and starting, become proud of myself again and just working through a lot of the emotional baggage and PTSD and all this stuff that was like just shackles, chains holding me down. And because of the personal transformation I started to experience, oh my God, like everybody needs to experience this. And of course, sometimes when we experience something, we're like, oh, does anybody else know about this? But basically, that's what started my coaching business. And so I started coaching in 2021 and just kept building on my own evolution and experience. And that's led me to, man, so many tops of the mountains and bottoms of the valleys, like lots of contrast. Got married, amazing relationship, thought we were going to be together forever, had a very sad divorce, like all this different stuff. And everything that's taken place has just shown me the next step, because I never stopped putting myself first and loving myself through all of these experiences, never gave up on myself. And so really that's what my personal brand is, I speak on things that have transformed my life and helped me And I offer solutions for people that want to also have a transformation. So I'm big in detoxing physical body, because we're energy, spirit, soul, whatever you want to say, in this physical realm. This is our vehicle that we're driving around in. And if we're not taking care of our vehicle, our experience sucks. So this is the foundation. And that's why I'm passionate on the raw vegan stuff, the physical health, helping people get rid of heavy metals, parasites, all the gunk in the intestines, the waste, and really be able to experience this life through a much clearer pair of glasses, a clearer lens. And so, yeah, building my brand is not building something separate from me. It's building me. And I don't wake up early every day to work on my business. I wake up every day to work on me. And part of working on me is my business. And so it's a fun life, man.
Mhm. Amazing. I love that. And actually, I've just published on my YouTube channel a video talking about you are the niche, and that really resonates because, sometimes in the business world, we're like, what's my niche? And ultimately, yeah, there's some value in thinking about your niche, but also just your humanity, your frequency is a niche in a way. So I like that. That you share
Yeah.
that with you share really who you are, and you're not trying to like narrow down too much. Also, was interesting what you shared about being different and owning it. It made me think like it's so beautiful to own your difference and be not be a sheep, and be like, okay, that's who I am, and I'm gonna own it. And at the same time, being living in a place where we're quite weird, like in Ubud, I can see also sometimes also in myself the ego that comes with being different. And to me, it's like finding that balance where I own my difference, but I don't try to be different and get attention. I could see, for example, I was just a week ago in Corsica at my brother's wedding, and they all work in finance. And I could see my ego liking that I was in a way so different, and people being curious about
Mm.
being someone being different. And I've noticed that a little bit with people who do urine therapy. Sometimes I felt like, is there an ego thing there about like, oh, I know something that no one else knows about? And I'm not saying it's the case, but it's just like like there is also that trap of like wanting to be different. It's like always a fine balance between owning it and not like
Yes.
seeking it, but yeah, that's what you raised when you shared that.
Such a good point, man, because I experienced that. After I switched my whole life, I went like all natural, all cotton clothing, grew my beard out. Like this is all trimmed up, but my beard was wild, hair was crazy long, and I basically just took a break from society. And I needed to do that because most of my life I relied on my looks, and like my eyebrows were always threaded and everything was perfect and the designer clothes. And I needed to just be accepted by myself and the world, no matter what I
Mm,
looked like or how I lived. And I did that for about 3 years. And that was a huge lesson for me. And the one thing I will share that I took away from that is we can identify with fitting in and we can identify with being different, but both of those things are separate from ourselves. When we can truly love ourselves, we'll enjoy fitting in and we'll enjoy standing out, but we don't identify with any of it because love isn't like an identity. Love is just
mm,
love. And yeah, it's a refreshing, freeing shift that took place because I did used to identify with both of those, and now I don't identify with anything anymore. It feels good.
mm. Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you so much. We're touching upon the end. One last thing that came to mind as we shared is also when you eat the way we eat, it's much less numbing for emotions. So I remember I touched upon at the beginning of I interviewed that reel from Thor about being a warrior is looking into your emotions. And actually, raw vegan is a way of the warrior in that way because, well, an apple and a mango, they don't do quite as well a good job at numbing your emotion than a pizza, right? So when you practice the diet that we do, you're more forced to look at your emotion, even more when you're fasting, actually. That's like the next level of it. So in that way, I feel it's a warrior way also compared to having denser foods.
It really is, man. If you've read the book Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman, he talks about how he's in college and this old martial artist really helps take him under his wing and transform him. Well, part of the agreement to work with him is to be on a plant-based diet and eat way less than he was before, and it's so that he can get in touch with his emotions, actually be the man that's aware instead of the man that's sedated. So yeah, you see this everywhere, and it's powerful, and it's one of the easiest, cheapest ways to become an alpha man is by getting in touch with who you are.
Amazing. I love it, Jonathan. That was such a great conversation. I'll put your links also in the description for people who want to learn more about you. And of course, I'd love to hear also from people like, do you feel raw vegan is compatible with being an alpha male? And what's your experience? Also put that in the comment. And yeah, we'd love to hear your reflection on that. Thank you to everyone who viewed. Thank you so much, Jonathan, and have a beautiful day, everyone.